Words just scribbled down like something crazy that a clown might do, to follow in the morning after too much said. Picture perfect on the other side, an early drawing by Picasso. Thoughts just written out like something lazy that a child might do, to follow in the morning for a new best friend. Rather simple in a crazy script, a first attempt at the sublime. Postcards written in the moment, thoughts important at the time, left unsent yet sentimental in a hand that's not refined. So they linger as intentions, little moments spent in thought, cast aside and never mentioned, seldom sent, but often bought. Heard just trickle forth like something hazy that a love might do, to follow in the morning with too much to say, spaced imperfect for the purpose, a gaudy thought to throw away. Postcards written in the moment, thoughts important at the time, left unsent. Words just scribbled down like something crazy that a clown might do, to follow in the morning after too much said. Picture perfect on the other side, an early drawing by Picasso. Thoughts just written out like something lazy that a child might do, to follow in the morning for a new best friend. Rather simple in a crazy script, the first attempt at the sublime. Postcards written in the moment, thoughts important at the time, left unsent yet sentimental in a hand that's not refined. So they linger as intentions, little moments spent in thought, cast aside and never mentioned, seldom sent, but often bought. Heard just trickle forth like something hazy that a love might do, to follow in the morning with too much to say, spaced imperfect for the purpose, a gaudy thought to throw away. Postcards written in the moment, thoughts important at the time, left unsent yet sentimental in a hand that's not refined. So they linger as intentions, little moments spent in thought, cast aside and never mentioned, seldom sent, but often bought. In a drawer that's never opened, by a window always closed, lie the words that once were spoken, in the silence of repose, where time can't touch and light can't fade. The sun will rise and set where memories were made, all recollections from a lifetime never saved. No ribbons tied around a gently woven braid. Postcards written in the moment, thoughts important at the time, left unsent yet sentimental in a hand that's not refined. So they linger as intentions, little moments spent in thought, cast aside and never mentioned, seldom often bought. Words just scribbled down like something crazy that a clown might do, to follow in the morning after too much said. Picture perfect on the other side, an early drawing by Picasso. Thoughts just written out like something lazy that a child might do, to follow in the morning for a new best friend. Rather simple in a crazy script, a first attempt at the sublime. Postcards written in the moment, thoughts important at the time, left unsent yet sentimental in a hand that's not refined, so they linger as intentions, little moments spent.
You are entering off TLAK record.
Okay, so we had no sound. It was a very quick fix, but we have our guest waiting. So yes, welcome to the first edition of Off TLAK Record. It's not going to be without some hiccups, which is why we kind of just did it without too much promo. So thank you, guinea pigs out there watching. And please use let me get the chat up so I can see. Oh God, no sound. Okay. So I hope I'm coming in a little clear now. But just to quickly recap what we missed with the vocal cords up. Yeah, so we released 2 reissues in January, including Stocking Sleeper, Michael D. Albuquerque, and the New World's Fair, Michael Moorcock and the Deep Fix. Both are celebrating 50 years of existence. First time on CD for this one. Has a chunky 24-page booklet. We go track by track with notes from George and Michael D. Albuquerque. George was his younger brother. He enlisted to produce it over at Morgan Studios, and Barry Morgan's on drums, and Ollie Hazel's on there. A lot of good stuff. And of course, this one has quickly become one of my top 10 favorite albums. Not that I didn't like it before the reissue, but I think the sound we did improvement thanks to Professor Stone really made it just one of my favorites now. It's a crazy album. And what's funny, we've been joking around. It's gotten a lot of good coverage, on Uncut, on Record Collector. Everyone's kind of been picking up on it, podcasts and stuff. So it's gotten, I think, the most attention it ever has. So I guess you never know when the time has come for interesting music. Might take 50 years, sadly, sometimes. But I'm very proud of that one. And we did a vinyl release, only one this month for Jim Camacho, One Glorious Day. Check him out, jimcamacho.com. Lots of videos on his site too. I think for almost every song, because this is basically a collection of songs that have already been out on streaming, the singles and a few extra tracks. So that's what this album is about, and check that out. So, and then a shout out to the February release, which I have already, Pato, Hold Your Fire. It has also a chunky booklet. Let's go through this real quick. I think 16 pages, but we do also kind of, I think we did a pretty good job. And I know what most people are saying, if you're familiar with this, is like, well, I don't need to buy this again. I've personally probably bought 3 or 4 copies of it, reissued. And this one's going to sound better than those. So that's another thing to just keep in mind. And we dug up a song that wasn't ever on a CD. So we did go the extra mile on that. But without further ado, there's actually another release that came out in January, and this is a part of a new trendy thing that we're doing to get with the times. It's, after all, it's 2026, February 1st, 2026, and this came out digital only. It's a digital only release from John Howard. It's called "Can You Hear Me Now?" and it's I want to say, well, it was recorded 75, but it was supposed to come out in 1976, and it didn't. So we brought on John to explain what happened here, right? How did this happen? How did this not get released until so many years later? When did it get released? How, who, what, where? We're going to find this out with our first guest here in Off TLAK Record. Okay, Off TLAK Record. Can't forget that name. And if everything is good over there, everyone's saying it's good, then we'll bring him on. First guest, first time we have this happening. So please welcome singer-songwriter John Howard to our festivities here. And here we go. Hi, John.
Hi, Roger.
I know it's a bit hectic. We were kind of scrambling before going live here, as always. It's always going to happen that way. But I realize we haven't. We've been working together for a few years now on projects, and I don't think we've ever really had a conversation real time. It's always email. So this is the first time.
Yeah, it is.
And thank you for coming on to the first edition of what I'm calling Off TLAK Record. That may change, right? That was just I like the meaning behind it, but it doesn't really sound nice. But the appeal, man, off TLAK record. But yeah, so we're off the record here, so don't worry. You can say anything you want, John. We're not gonna say anything after, right? This is off the record. But yeah, so I kind of mentioned what's been happening with the reissues we've been doing digitally for your catalog, and it started a few months ago, I think August or so, with Kid in the Big World, which is your first album, right? First album, and it was a big one. It was a big deal. It was on CBS and everything, and then this was what we just put out, Can You Hear Me Now, and that was I believe to be your second album. But what happened? Tell us what happened there, John.
Well, it's quite a long story, but I'll make it as brief as possible because it's a long process went through the making of this. Because I'd recorded Kid in a Big World at Abbey Road and Apple, and that came out in February '75. And while that was all being put together for release, I'd started a second album called Technicolor Biography, with Paul Phillips producing. And then about a month after the album, Kid in a Big World, came out, I got a call, or my manager got a call from the head of CS saying he'd like to take us for lunch, which is always very nice. And during the lunch, he said, look, Technicolor Biography has got some really good songs, but I can't see any hits. So we want to change direction and put you in the studio with Bidoo, who was already having, like loads of hits. Tina Charles, Jimmy James, Carl Douglas, which seemed an odd fit for me, but I thought, well, let's, and I knew Bidoo because he and my manager have been friends for a few years. I'd known him for 3 or 4 years then. So what we agreed was that we'd go in the studio with Bid and the arranger Jerry Shuri to record 2 tracks. I Got My Lady, which I'd written specially to work with Bidoo, and Frightened Now, which was a song I'd written a few months earlier. And when I played I Got My Lady to Bid, he said, this is a hit, this could be a hit single. So we thought, well, we're on the right track here, So we went in and recorded those 2, sent them over to CBS, and they loved them. And they actually scheduled I Got My Lady into a summer '75 release. So in the meantime, they said, yeah, they're great, go in and finish the album. So we did 8 more tracks, all of which I'd written in the previous sort of 7 or 8 weeks, really. And because Jerry Shuri had moved on to work on another Bidoo project, Bid brought in Pete Williams, who you probably know him better as the producer of Status Quo in the 80s and 90s.
Okay.
Yeah, but at the time he was an arranger. So he and I used to get together every day at my manager's office, and I'd play in the new songs, 2 People in the Morning, You Keep Me Steady, etc. And he went away, he recorded them on a little dictaphone, took those away and said, right, I'll have the arrangements ready. So we went in late April, I think it was, '75. And for the next 3 or 4 months, we recorded them with me singing with the orchestra and playing the piano. And then I did some vocal overdubs later, like double tracking and stuff like that. So we were waiting really for CBS to put to put I Got My Lady out as a single, and July came and went, August came and went, and we didn't hear any more. So anyway, September, we delivered the tapes to CBS for Can You Hear Me Okay? And we didn't get any reply particularly.
This was so this was September. So you had it. It was in the can for a while, so to speak.
Yeah. We'd finished it early August, I think, and we took it down there. Well, my manager took it to CBS, probably late August, early September. And as I say, we never heard anything. And then we started getting these little weird messages from them saying we were expecting a disco album.
Okay.
So I said, well, I'm not a disco artist, you know, and Pip Williams didn't arrange for disco tracks. He arranged for the ballads, and I Got My Lady, which Jerry Shuri did, as you know. But what I tried to come up with was hooky songs with a hook. Whereas, although Kid in a Big World had hooky songs, they were a little bit more arch, maybe a little bit more out there. And with Can You Hear Me Okay, I tried to sort of contain myself, you know, and write songs with
Mainstream it, yeah.
situations. And, you know, anyway, that summer I'd filmed a performance of I Got My Lady on a show called The Musical Time Machine, and thinking it was coming out as a single, and it didn't. Anyway, that was actually shown in December 23rd, 75. Which I never saw, funny enough, because I was in New York visiting friends and visiting the Columbia. So I never saw that for years. I never saw that performance for years until it was on YouTube.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And the odd thing was that the day after that performance was broadcast, CBS rang my manager while I was away and said, "We've just seen this and we think it's great, and we would like to put the single out in January." So, so they put the single out in January, and it got loads of play on Capital Radio, the London, you know, local station. But Radio 1, for the third time, refused to play it. They had a real problem with me for reasons I didn't understand at the time and discovered later. And because we got no Radio 1 play, and in the 70s, if you got no Radio 1 play, you basically forget a hit, you know, it just wouldn't chart. Because the playlist kept things going, kept the players going, kept people buying it, and all the rest of it. And then the next thing was we're shelving the album. We're not putting it out because it's had no Radio 1 play and it's not a hit. And so that was kind of it, you know. So the album wasn't put out and stayed on the shelf. Initially, my manager's shelf, and then sometime in the late 70s, CBS rang my manager and said, "If you want all John's recordings back, please have them."
They're clearing up the space.
Yeah, clear up the desk. We don't want all this, you know. So, so he did, and we got all the tapes back. And then when he retired, he gave me the tapes and said, "They're now yours, and all the publishing is yours." Since then, Kid in a Big World came out in 2003 on RPM, and because I did
reissue,
on a reissue CD. And then a few months later, Mark at RPM put Technical Biography out, although it was never finished. There were just demos. And because that did well, he said, "Well, we'll put Can You Hear Me Okay out as well." So that came out in 2005 on CD. I got amazing reviews, and nearly everybody in the review said, "Why was this never released? You know, what was the problem?" So I never really understood the whole CBS thing anyway, because even from day one, when I was signed, they kept wanting to change my name, and just the whole journey was really, really weird, you know.
That brings me to a question I wanted to ask you about what it was like. So here you are, you know, this is 74, 75, and 76. You're like, you know, in London doing, you know, kind of a dream almost, right? Like, so you were like this music obsessed kid in northern industrial England, and then all of a sudden here you are, major labels, studios, producers. But look at, you know, from your experience that you just told us now, like, do you feel like once you were in that situation, did it lose some of the magic and the fun, you know, of when you were a kid, like just thinking about this stuff, and then to actually being, you know, in the driving seat, so to speak?
Yeah, it felt really strange because I'd gone to London in 73 and was playing at various folk clubs and Troubadour and places like that, which is where my managers met me, saw me, and then signed me up. you know, and bless him, you know, Stuart, he believed so much, you know, he kept telling me, this is it, we're going to do it, you know. And when the very first day we went into Abbey Road, which was like March 74, I think, April 74, he said, this is the day of your life. This is when it all begins, you know, you're going to be huge. I just know it. So I believed it, he believed it, Tony Meehan, who was producing the album, believed it. But even that was really odd because, you know, we went for a photo session in the August, and Tony came up with this idea of making me look very gothic. He said, because I was really skinny then. He said, you've got a great little picture, you know, white makeup, black lips, black nails, and just do the whole gothic thing, and we'll get a great photographer, Mike Nicholson, a Canadian guy who was great. We went to Les Ambassadeurs and we had all this these amazing pictures taken on these huge staircases and in the bar drinking cocktails. It was all very glamorous. And then, you know, we loved them, sent them off to CBS, and they hated them. They just thought these were absolutely disgusting, was the word they used. You know, he said that we don't want all this. This is just decadent, disgusting stuff. So that was a bit of a shock. So the dream was getting a little tarnished even by then, and so then we went back again, and they put me in a very old terraced house, which was derelict, and they said, you know, let's make you look glamorous but not quite so gothic, and have you wandering around this old house, which is what I did. And eventually we came out with the LP sleeve for Kid in a Big World, which was me looking, you know, wistfully out of a window. And they loved that. So at least we got that far. But the whole journey was really odd. And I suppose by the time Can You Hear Me OK was dropped, and I was dropped, it felt, I dealt with it really well, actually. I mean, I remember Paul Phillips, who was my producer at the time, said, you know, a lot of people go off the rails. This is all, you know, you've been through this for like 18 months, 2 years, and suddenly you're like nowhere. But I dealt with it quite well. And what I started doing was playing in quite shishy restaurants in, there it is, There's Good to Be World.
Yeah, that's what became the album cover, right?
That's what became the album cover, yeah, absolutely. And I started playing a lot of like West End nightclubs, cocktail bars, and this sort of stuff. And that just kept me connected to music, really, you know, because I think without that, I would have been rudderless. I wouldn't have known kind of what to do. So I played in April Ashley's restaurant and at Morton's in Berkeley Square. And there was another very glamorous place called The Last Resort. And really for the next 18 months, really, I carried on doing that, you know, just sort of keeping my love of music, and built up a different following, if you like, a following that I wasn't expecting to have, who loved that, you know, me sort of sitting there with the white grand piano and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Well, this is sounding familiar to me because I have checked out your book here. This is you tell the whole story in fascinating, I think, detail, right? Like very, you know, very specific. You have a good memory, I think, because it's a lot of little details here. Now, this is, I believe, just the first out of 3 that you've done. You kept going. So
it is.
This one for our viewers. This is a autobiography John did. How long ago did this come out? When did this come out? 2018?
2018, yeah.
2018. And then this kind of starts from the beginning to about 75, 76, around the period we're talking about now, I think.
Yeah.
And then you did a second volume and you pick up from there to like the 80s. And then there's a third volume, which I have to check these out. I believe it's Illusions of Happiness, the second one, and In the Eyeline of Furtherance.
That's right.
And before we get into what inspired you to do this, Well, let's actually talk about that. So what inspired? Because that's quite a big. I mean, you didn't do just one; you did 3 volumes. And well, what I was going to say is that it's interesting. I kind of, even though I've yet to continue, I've read only the first one. I like that you kept going, because a lot of rock and roll biographies or musician biographies, they tend to kind of stop at their peak, and then everything else is like footnotes. But I've mentioned this to a few people directly. Like, I'm like, well, what happened in the 80s? I want to know, like, because the 80s seems like
Yeah.
a very weird period for some of these artists from the 60s particularly. Like, how did they, I mean, it was such a different landscape. So what inspired you to do this? And did you know it was going to be 3 volumes, or did that just sort of happen?
No, I'd written the first volume, and the publisher Fisher King read it, loved it, and said, "We'd love to put this out, but you've ended it sort of, a bit of a cliffhanger, because I had an accident and I broke my back and was out of action." So I'd started the book lying in a bed in hospital with a broken back, and then went back to my childhood through my growing up in the north, and then into building up to Kid in a Big World, and then the deal ending, because in January '76 was when Can You Hear Me Okay was dropped, and the accident happened in October that year. So I thought, well, that would be a nice sort of circle, really. And the reviews were fabulous. I mean, I was quite astonished at how many great reviews it actually had. So that's when they got back in touch and said, just carry the story on. Do you have more to say? And I said, oh yes, I've got quite a bit more to say. So then I came out. I did Illusions of Happiness, which again that carried on after I came out of hospital. And the whole process of recovering, and physiotherapy, and walking with sticks, and just basically getting my confidence physically back. Because what shocked me was lying in a hospital bed for weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, not being able to move. Your muscles completely disappear. So you can't. I'd forgotten how to go up and down a staircase. I mean, it's such a you do it all the time, putting one foot in front of the other, and all became a complete trauma. Like, my God, I can't believe this. So that took a long time, and so then that book goes through me meeting Trevor Horn, who was then a bass player for Tina Charles, who my manager was handling all her shows. And that went up to 1986, just before I met my husband, Neil. And in the outline of furtherance goes through basically how I left recording in 80. When would that have been? 84. That's right, 84, 85. Got offered a job in the music industry. And then my sort of career took a different direction, which I wasn't expecting at all. And that, that was people just saying, we'd like you to do this, and you've got great knowledge of the pop business, would you like to come on and work on that? So I did that for about 20 years. So that book then takes us, the third book goes from 86, when I met Neil, to 2000, when I actually retired from the music industry and had no idea what was ahead in 2003 when Kid got reissued. So at the time I thought, well, that's probably a good spot to, we moved to Wales, and I was going to just basically retire and not doing very much, really. We had a big garden, so I was working in that. Very George Harrison of me, really, to decide to work in my garden. So that really was the inspiration for the books, and that was Fisher King saying, we want another one. I decided to stop the book at 2000, because not to do a fourth, because it was too recent in a way. A lot of these people I talk about in the 3 volumes have gone, or are no longer in the business, or are no longer around, and I think that gives them a sort of historical feel. Whereas I think talking about the now, well, quite honestly, that's right, exactly.
It's a little, so I can definitely see that being a good choice, I guess. But yeah, again, it's interesting that you did carry on, and I think that readers will appreciate that. And what else was well? So you bring up working. Well, I actually didn't realize you were recording up to 84. I know you went into the sort of business side of the music industry, and now I haven't read the book, so you're going to have to tell me a little bit of what you did. What was it that was it like A&R? I think in the 80s once
Yeah,
you
it was a yes, it was A&R, working with artists right through the 80s, 90s. I worked with people like Elkie Brooks on an album called Amazing. An amazing singer called Maria Friedman, who was a theatrical musical artist, but an amazing voice. Did an album with her, and put together with Madness. I put 2 volumes of their greatest hits, A's and B's, called It's Madness and It's Madness 2, TOO. And I worked with Madness on that, which was fantastic. They were just fantastic guys to work with. Really, really charming, lovely, lovely guys. And I put together a Barry Manilow compilation called Reflections, which I got to meet Manilow after that had come out. And he said to me, do you know, he said, this album has reconnected me with Arista, because we're talking late 80s, things were getting a little bit shaky, I think, with him and Arista at the time. Don't quote me on that. And
it's off the record. Don't worry, John.
off the record, absolutely, yeah, exactly. Off TLAK record, yes. And but he told me, he said, because we sold 200,000 of that. Amazing now, 200,000 CDs, no LP, just CDs. Yeah. Just astonishing. And he said that reconnected him with Arista and started his career again. So he was very sweet to me after one of it. I love Manilow. I know a lot of people are not that keen, but he just writes the most incredible songs. And I thought I had a great voice. And put on
it's a different style of music, I guess.
Oh, totally, yeah. Totally, absolutely. But what I think, working in that industry and in that way, I got to work with all these different style artists, from Madness to Manilow.
Yeah,
it's a pretty big leap. But they're all artists that one respects. I did an album with Lonnie Donegan, who was a 1950s skiffle star in the UK, and he did an album called Muleskinner Blues for me, and did 2 duets on there with Van Morrison. So there were exciting times. So I was putting together back catalogue stuff, and I was also working with artists, in the studio now, and it was fun. I really loved it.
I mean, it sounds fun, and I mean, it sounds like that would be a gig for you, because I know you're a big music lover. I mean, on anyone who's following you on Facebook, which everyone should check. Look out for John Howard, and you're always posting. You're not posting. I mean, you do post your music. You promote it a lot, but you're also just sharing music you love and that you grew up with, and you tell the stories, and that's cool. And I think artists. Well, I went out with. I did something I don't normally get a chance to do. I actually caught a show from one of the international artists from Think Like a Key over in London. It was the Dr. Strangely Strange album launch show back in
brilliant.
I think it was October, right? And I kind of feel partly to blame or responsible, however you want to look at it, for them coming back after so many years and deciding to do a new album, because we had worked together on an archive release. And next thing you know, they were inspired to do this album. So I was like, well, if I can make it out there, let's. So me and my wife, we managed to. We were in Philadelphia, I think, and I was like, well, let's hop on over. We literally did a 2-day trip, which she hates, but she entertained me. Yeah, she's never done something like that before. I've done stuff like I kind of like going to some place very far for a couple days, if not even hours, and then come back. I don't know. It kind of makes it, you remember every moment while you're there. Whether instead of being like two weeks somewhere, I mean, you're going to get bored, and it's just going to become another trip. But so this is, so I still remember it was like it was a hectic 48 hours, and we got to see the show, and I got to meet the band for the first time. But then the next day we're hanging out, and And I was just, we're just talking. It's what's amazing is there's so many links with the Think Like a Key label, which would be actually fun to talk to you about, because you're part of these links that have happened. And we're discussing that with the band, and it's kind of like, I think a lot of Think Like he has young, older musicians who never had a record deal, or musicians who've had record deals, have big albums and whatever. So, it's a big mix. But the one thing I think is in common is that it's I think artists that don't really choose to do this, like even if we are broke and whatever, like we'll still find a way to put out an album or record a song, right? So I think that's the kind of vibe that sort of the label has sort of attracted, and it just sort of has happened. But so speaking of links, well, you were probably gigging around the time that they were still gigging, because I know in your book you go into some interesting links with like some bands I didn't expect, like Spyro Gyro, but not the jazz funk guys, right? It was
folk rock.
Yeah,
like folk rock type of stuff. Martin Cunningham, no, Martin. Anyway, he was the lead singer. He was amazing. I met him when I was performing at the Bolton Octagon Theatre in the early 70s, 70, 71, 72. They did a thing called Bluesology every fourth Saturday. And I was performing there at one of them, and Spyro Gyro were headlining. And Barbara Gaskin was in that band, and she ended up having that big hit with It's My Party with Dave Stewart a few years later. But they're an amazing group because they had a violinist, bass player, Barbara, and Martin had this most incredible voice and wrote these really powerful songs. I mean, they just fill this theatre with sound. It was quite something. And they never became as big as I really thought they would. I thought they'd be huge. But they came back to the Octagon a couple more times, and I supported them both times after that because we got on really well. And they were always fun. The guy who used to do that sound was really funny. And their manager was Max Hole, who became eventually the head of Warner's A&R, who signed Howard Jones, which was my birthday.
Interesting. Yes. And Howard Jones. Yes, that John Howard, Howard Jones. I know a few of us have probably made that mix up here as fans.
Yeah.
But so that's great. You were around in those days, and one other musician producer that you worked with in the early days was Eddie Puma, which we've discussed before, and he was we were back and forth whether it's Eddie Puma,
Eddie Puma,
but I do believe, based on what you told me, he was in Capitol Records, Capitol Radio, and all that, and Kate Bush and all that, and that is the same guy. So you worked with the guitarist from Kaleidoscope, Fairfield Parlor, who of course Peter Daltrey is a big, I think, like a key artist. So that's that I think is a really interesting connection.
It is
not, it's just there, it
just happened.
And there's actually another interesting connection, which I was just thinking about. I don't think we've talked about this one. We were on a radio show, sort of, I don't know what you'd call it. We were on a show together with my band, Extra Legion, and John Howard. This was before we really knew of each other.
That's right. Through Don Valentine.
I Don't Hear a Single, and he was getting bands to kind of produce, like he's kind of doing like BBC session style, right? Like he asked us to do some live takes, and he was doing he would put it on radio, and then he linked both of us up, which I was a little worried because I'm like, wait, we don't really. It was a very different sounding thing. So I was like, I don't know if people,
if it's going to work.
I don't know if we crossed over too well in that show. I mean, whatever my contribution was pretty rough. I know, on purpose. It was I was trying to recreate like a live, chaotic sound. So but yeah. So that was really
then I come on
fun.
with my little piano, doing my little piano things. You thought, well, this is weird.
Yeah, but I mean, I remember I liked the set, but I did think it was a weird, odd pairing. But in the same time, I mean, I was flattered that he linked us up with you. So that's cool. And yeah, Don, hey, if Don's listening out there, he was a
Thank you.
good supporter of. I mean, he
And
still is. He's still.
Yeah, absolutely. And shall I tell you who also linked me up with you? Another of your artists, Edward Rogers.
Yes, that's right. He was officially, I think, who I think it was
Put
through
us
the
together.
Jimmy Campbell project.
It was because he said he sent me an email and said, Roger at Think Like a Key is putting this Jimmy Campbell album together. We're doing something. I think you should do something. So he said, so I'm going to mention it to Roger, and you sent me this wonderful backing track of Baby Walk Out With Your Darling Man. And I just love singing that song. It's such a beautiful song. I'd never heard it before. So it was great to actually sing a song I didn't know. And I just love the track. I think it works so well.
Well, I'm glad you liked it, because I mean, I think it showed. I think it showed in the performance and arrangement. And yeah, that was an interesting project for me. I kind of consider that the start of the label, because that's where I started working outside my little circle and bubble. And
yeah,
and then also the label. I got that kind of just started with getting some distribution, and then I wasn't thinking much, and the guys, in the meeting there were like, well, you can get bands, you can sign it. And that I literally didn't really think that much. And then immediately it just took off. And Peter Daltrey, I think, was one of the first people I connected with, and I started doing just these archive things. And yeah, so that was a lot of fun to get started on this. And here we are a few years later, and it just keeps going.
It does.
And speaking of going, we can talk about real quick. We'll just make a few plugs here. So this is the album we put out last year, right? Yeah.
About a year ago.
Wandered by.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be a year ago, because we did it on the anniversary of your first album. I remember that.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So that was also a cool sort of thing that just happened. And we played in the intro music. I played Return Postcards, which is off this record. And then, of course, this one we put out a while ago. It's a reissue of Cut the Wire, which was I think it came out in 2019 originally, and this we put out in 2023. Sorry, and yeah, we have a few copies here left. We copied the CBS, I think.
And that was a Prof Stone master as well. Prof did an amazing job on Cut the Wire.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing. I call him the secret weapon of the label, honestly. And he's another reason I'm doing any of this. Like in the intro, I kind of mentioned, a couple of these albums, like this one, which I really found this album interesting, but it just sounded like it is a roughly recorded. They used, I think, more of a demo studio than a real big studio, and it kind of shows. But it's a very clever thing. It just needed a little tweaking, and he managed to do it. And now it's like my favorite album, because it just sounds so cool. And I don't know what he does. It's definitely magic, and he brought out the some cool sounding remasters of your albums. And
he has. I mean, what I love about the Prof's mastering and remastering is he maintains the original intrinsic intention of the recording. He doesn't sort of bend it out of shape, or put things up too loudly or whatever. It's almost like he's doing a French polish on the recording, so they just become much more radiant and shine more sonically. That's why I find what he does really fascinating, because sometimes you hear other remastered projects, and I won't name any, but there's one or two around with huge bands at the moment. And they just, for me, they're just completely bent out of shape, and the recordings you loved have gone. And I think that's a tragedy, because that's how young people will hear them, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah, there's a lot that goes wrong, I think, when it comes to that department. So again, that's like a big deal for me, is like having him on board, just doing his thing. And I think we're kind of similar. We just I mean, there's a lot of politics, as I'm sure you dealt with. I mean, so you're in a business in the 80s, and like you said, the number of the Manilow CDs sold. I mean, those numbers nowadays, I feel bad. Like, I mean, honestly, I feel bad when I bring you on to Leo, and anyone that put out records back then, or even 20 years ago. Honestly, I feel bad, because I'm like, I'm like, let's do 300. It's just the way it is. But I do feel bad. But that
No, you mustn't. You mustn't feel bad, because everything's changed.
things have changed.
Everything has changed in a huge way. I mean, I don't know how true this is, but I read somewhere that Paul McCartney's album, what was it called? McCartney 3, which got to #1 in America. But I read somewhere that was all streaming, and he actually sold about 10,000 CDs, which is, the guy who sell literally millions in a minute.
Yeah.
Now, whether it's true, I don't know, but that's what I heard, and that kind of made sense in a way, because everybody was streaming it.
Well, I mean, I have my inside baseball here, where since we're off TLAK record, I can say that we hit Billboard last year, which was kind of a crazy thing with a release with the tribute album, Raspberries, and that release day, I got a email from Billboard asking, "Hey, we need your record label logo." I was like, "Okay," So, but and that reminds me, I've been in situations like that. It's like, you spend all the time knocking down on doors, but then they'll find you when they need you. That's the bottom line. So once they need you, it's like, oh, hey, and that's what happened here. So they knocked on our door, and I mean, short-lived. I think it was only the first week, and there's tricks involved in that. I mean, not tricks, but just the way it works is that counted all the pre-orders, and we delayed it like 3 weeks or so. So that added more pre-orders. So we had a pretty good amount. But what's crazy is, again, it was not a mind-blowing amount to get on the. Granted, it's the compilation chart, but what's crazier is when I realized that it didn't count our direct sales, because those through the company just don't get funneled. They'll get in the official charts, which is the British equivalent, but they won't go to the US chart. I mean, I'd have to manually do stuff, and I wrote to them, and they don't have a clue what the heck I was talking about. They don't really deal with, like you brought up the point of the Paul McCartney record. It was mostly streaming. They don't really deal with the physical stuff anymore. So it's only really what gets scanned on Amazon or at a record store. So I think Bandcamp, maybe those sales might come. But anyway, we sold a very high number direct, which I think we would have been #1 easily with those included. Wow. So it was not a lot of, my point is, it wasn't a lot of copies to make the Billboard chart. But again, this is 2026. But what was also interesting is that was without streaming at all, because it's still not on streaming. It's coming out later. Actually, it might be coming out Friday, guys. So heads up.
Oh, good.
Fingers crossed. Excellent. I haven't seen it ingested yet, but they tell me it's Friday. But yeah, that was without streaming and without no vinyl, and kind of what was the other thing that was weird about it? No, I mean, it was just no digital. So it was just through CD sales. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But Yeah, it's you know, everything, you know, when I license stuff, which I'm trying to license a few things now with well, I got a reply from Sony about something, and they're like, yeah, okay, I'll look into it for you, but you know, just so you know, the minimum is 3,000 copies. I was like, oh,
Lord,
you know, yeah, that's not going to happen.
crazy.
But I don't know on what planet they're living on. I mean, on
No,
you know, that, but it's sad because, you know, the ones that kind of, you know, then it's actually like, I mean, even Paul McCartney is going to be struggling to sell what he sold even 10 years ago. So while physical media, I think is actually getting, you know, more interest or more what's the word? I mean, it just it's I think people are realizing that, well, yeah, we should have some physical, it's like kind of physical gold and stuff. You kind of want some physical stuff. um the cloud is fun, but you know, it's, you know, we've had so many like I don't know how the weather has been in Spain, but I know, you know, they're just I just got a photo from Keith Smart from St. John's Wood Affair. His neighborhood flooded, like cars
yeah,
literally underground, like underwater rather. And it's just mud and stuff, and it's like, wow. I mean, all pockets of the world are just experiencing things. Now, granted, your record collection will probably flood too, but the point being is, you know, the cloud. You know, you won't have access to internet. You won't have electricity, so you got to kind of have stuff, even if it's in your pocket. Just have some physical things
yeah,
that'll help
I
you
think
out.
so. I think so, and
So
I think people are enjoying having something in your hand again. You know, because
yeah,
that,
the younger
I,
generation for sure.
yeah, for younger generation. Because I saw a documentary a little while back now, um, and where this guy went through the streets with an LP. I don't know
Uh,
whose LP it was. It was somebody's LP. And one group of girls, they gave this LP, and one of them took it and said, "Oh, it's like a pizza." You know,
yeah,
she'd never seen an LP before.
makes sense. Yeah, yeah, pizza.
But you know,
Well,
I
that's
think
another
gradually that's changing.
statistic. I just saw. I mean, they've been saying this for a while, but I just saw, I think, a few days ago on YouTube, someone breaking it down a little further on how, yeah, sure, the sales, because CD sales are going up too, but vinyl is still like kind of outselling. But then the catch is that over 50% don't even have a record player who buy the vinyl. So that's a thing. And I mean, I can say, you know, with this label, I get asked a lot, you know, vinyl this, vinyl that. And I mean, it doesn't make too much sense because we don't really move much vinyl. And it carries quite a bit more expense when it comes to particularly shipping around the world. um,
Yeah,
so granted, I see labels, you know, doing this kind of music that are all just vinyl, but I do think they've been doing it for a long time, and they have their little clique. But generally speaking, you know, I think it's kind of like an artist likes the vinyl, and you know, obviously there'll be some fans, a percentage of fans that do it, but the general public or just casual fans are not. You know, it's more expensive and all this stuff that's involved, and but it works both ways too. I sent a CD out to someone. We did a reissue of John Wheater's solo album, and I had got in contact with a cousin, with sorry, his nephew, and sadly he passed away last year, and there's like a few months that no one really realized or knew. You know, it was rumors. So we finally confirmed things, and sadly, I was at the same time wanting to reissue the album, and it just unfortunately took a long time, and he had already passed away, and but I sent him the CD, and he's like, "Oh, now I got to find my CD player." So you know, it works both ways. You know, people will buy records without a record player, or they'll get CDs but don't have a CD player. It's in storage. What about you though? Do you have a CD player handy, or what's your preferred
yeah. We've got a
experience?
record player and a CD player, and I actually you know, I had a record player for years, and then I have to be honest, right about the mid '80s, vinyl stopped really coming out that much, or certainly by the late
Yeah,
'80s. Um, so it was all CD, you know. I mean, Sergeant Pepper was reissued in '87 just on CD.
I,
You know, one of
I
the
still
biggest albums
remember.
in
I
the
still
world.
remember I remember clearly. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a kid, but I was in the record store and my mom and they had it was '87, so they had like these posters with all the Beatles out, and I mean that helped me because I was like right at that age where I'm like, what is all this stuff? You look at all the covers and crazy song titles, and that got me interested.
Yeah,
So that
absolutely.
CD, yeah, that CD reissue thing was just perfect in time, and
Absolutely.
yeah,
It
a lot of
kept
stuff.
yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I got a record player because what year would it have been? 2015. When John Howard the Night Mail came out on LP. I'd never had an LP out since Kid in the Big World.
yeah.
So I got a record player specially. And Ian Button actually told me the best record player to get, within a price range that played beautifully and all the rest of it. And it's great. It's here right behind me. And
So
so and then you cut the wire out, and then for those that want to buy. So I'm gradually building up a nice John Howard collection, and I've started buying LPs again from Discogs that
yeah,
came out.
it's fun.
That the original LPs that I'd sold, because when we left, when we were moved to Spain, we decided to sell the vinyl because we had like thousands, and we were moving to a smaller place. So I sort of been getting a few more of those.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, Discogs is great, and any listeners out there, any viewers, I'll recommend to check it out, and then you can log in your collection. So I'm always logging in everything I pick up.
Yeah.
I'm still picking up a lot of stuff, but I kind of I actually it's sad I have a whole stack back there. I think the one on top there, those are all unopened still. I just
Oh
I
wow.
don't really have. I probably listen to 5 hours of music a week, so it's very little. There's just unless it's a project and stuff that'll or a release we're doing, But even that, it's like I have very little listening time. So a lot of it's just research for me, like to see what the trends
Yeah.
are when it comes to reissuing and packaging and things, and yeah, it's fun. I mean, there's something to it. I mean, it still keeps going. I'm always happy to be kind of doing things now, even though everything is just so different and crazy. But if no one's doing it, then it will really just disappear. Just go away.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right.
And thanks to everyone who tunes in and supports the releases. Check out the John Howard releases, which we have I guess we can announce, there's a new album coming out later this year. We have to schedule it still, but
Yeah. It's called
so
Overnight Bags.
nice. So we'll probably hopefully we can chat again closer to when that's happening.
That'd be good.
And then we'll keep talking. I mean, yeah, there's still a lot of stuff I wanted to talk to you about, but I know it's late over there, and we did a good hour here. I think that's cool.
It is. It's great. It's been great because, as you say, it's just so good to be able to talk rather than just communicate with emails.
Yeah, no, of course. I was talking with my wife. We were like thinking about communication stuff, and but we were both, I think, with the telephone. I don't know. I was never much of a telephone person to begin with. As soon as there was an instant messenger thing, that's how I commanded. This is already back still in high school, I think. There's probably 5 other kids in school that even knew what this stuff was. But yeah, I had my computer on all the time, and I didn't have a cell phone until maybe 10 years ago or something. I was really trying to avoid a lot of this stuff, but now you can't be without a phone, but you could definitely put it down more, I think.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. Because I'm from a different generation from you. It took me quite a long time. I remember it was the late 90s, I think, when I started getting into the internet. because I was working in the industry then, and more people within the music business that I knew personally were starting to get into emailing and that sort of stuff. So I did, but it felt really strange at first because it's so non-physical, and that felt very strange. With the phone, you're sort of dialing in the number, and that's physical. And even recording, digitally. When I first started, I got my studio in 2005, which is a very old Yamaha workstation. But I absolutely love it because it's the most analog you can get using a digital machine. So it feels as physical as it can. So I mix by hand. It's not all done on a screen. So everything is, and every mix I have to if I want to tweak something, I have to go right back to it and mix it all over again. But I love that, because I think this is how, when I was buying records, that's how people recorded. It's all very manual and physical and instinctive, and it wasn't a program telling you how to do this or how to get that sound. You had to find the sounds, and so I still, whenever I'm recording, that's what I try and do, and I buy instruments and bits of percussion and strange things, banjos and everything, just to try and different sort of sounds. There's a track on For Those That Wander By, and I think it's Dead at the Scene, and that's a ukulele, but I multi-tracked it so it sounds like mandolins.
I see.
But that's something that I found fascinating to actually do. And then you add all this reverb, and suddenly it's like a humming choir, of mandolins. And I love that, the fact that I didn't look for a program to do that. I did it physically. It took hours, but it's always worth it.
Yeah, I think that's what's interesting about your new albums. And I was gonna say I didn't know that's how you're recording. Yeah, I think it shows. I think that you can see that there's a lot of thought that goes into it in the mix, and it has it's modern enough, digital, but it has the aesthetics or something of an older recording.
Yeah, it does.
I miss that a lot. I don't operate like that anymore. I have my old 4-track cassette tape, which is where I would
do your writing.
Up. That's it. But I look at that thing, I'm like, I don't know how I did any of that stuff. I mean, I would do stuff like backward tapes and I was very like, it was like a Pro Tools, and my hands would do all different things, speed change here, this and that, and do the mixing and everything. But I can't remember at all how that happened. But yeah, I miss it. But yeah, it's a thing, I think, yeah, I don't know. It's just, I personally, I don't know. I don't think I would have the patience, honestly, anymore.
Well, my husband Neil says that to me. He said, "I don't know how you have the patience because I do everything myself."
Yeah.
And it's not, I don't use drum machines. It's a real drums that I play. Strings are obviously sampled because I can't get an orchestra in my little casita studio, which I'd love to do. But everything else,
I got to link you up with Pablo Solo. He's over there in Spain, and he's done a few things with string quartets and things. So
okay,
yeah, you guys should link up.
That'd be interesting. That would be really interesting. You mentioned about the backward tapes. There's a track on your release of Can You Hear Me Okay? Track 11. Is This My Love? The Hurricane Smith song, which Eddie Puma produced. Yeah. Very, very late night session. That was like 2 or 3 in the morning. We did that. But he did the thing of recorded the piano and then turned the tapes upside down and re-recorded what we'd done, but backwards. Yeah. And that's that opening, that really strange opening, and it happens all the way through the track. This strange sort of surge, and that Beatles Strawberry Fields Forever, Sgt. Pepper's surge of sound that you only get, like the end of Rain when John Lennon's singing backwards.
Oh yeah.
And that yeah, and again, you know, that was reel to reel tape and just turning it over. And I remember thinking, wow, this is fantastic. You know, he was very inventive, Eddie. He was fantastic to work with. Really lovely guy too.
You know, well, those guys, you know, they were recording there 67, 68. And
Yeah,
they had quite a few tricks up their sleeve that I'm sure he picked up on. There's a
yeah,
track, Music. That's the closer of their second album, and it's like 6 or 7 minutes, and it just there's like 2 minutes of just like phase, like it's like, oh
yes,
man, it was pretty out there. I mean, I remember first hearing, I'm like, wow, this is pretty wild stuff. And then you just have
yeah.
the drums and everything. I mean, it's madness. So that it must have been fun to put those things together back then. Um, and yeah, it's wild what we can do now. I've been doing a lot of AI. Sadly, it fascinates me.
Oh, it does.
Um,
Yeah,
it
I love what you
fascinates
do
me.
with it.
Well. Besides the video, there's music. That's what's crazy.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, right.
like you can,
Okay.
yeah. Like I've just been having fun covering my own songs, like in every style imaginable. And then and taking other things and yeah, I've you can have a lot of fun. And now you mentioned the instruments. Now they have something where you can just you can make a like you describe your sound and you can make the sound. I don't know. It's
Wow.
pretty out there. It's interesting, but I feel like it's for us. It'll be fun. Like for me, it's fun because I know how to. I don't remember how to do the 4-track, but I know I did it at one point. We have like a reference of this old school stuff, but I try to think if I was just coming into everything and this is the tools I have. I don't
Mm,
know. I don't know if you could create something really good. I don't know. So that's where I'm like, I think you need to have an understanding of how things
both.
work, and then you can have fun with these tools. But if you're just handed these AI tools, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's a lot. I used to have a buddy. Um, I mean, this was a while ago. Danny. I won't say his nickname. It's not. It's not. Well, we are off TLAK record. Well, he was a Professor Parkinson, another professor, but Professor
Another
Parkinson.
professor.
Yeah, that was his stage name, and he was like, I mean, he was such a good guitar player. He could play anything. He came out of Berkeley, and we never met a cat like that, but it was crazy. So and I would have fun in the group I was in. We wanted to do every style of music. So this guy was like, oh my god, you can do it. So, but he'd always tell me, what do you want me to do? You have to tell me what to do. I can, he could do anything. So it was like he wouldn't know what to do. So it wasn't that he
Okay.
couldn't play; he just didn't know. Like he could just do anything, and that's how I kind of feel like now. I realize with AI, it's like, well, you could do anything, but what do you do? So I don't know. I get stuck. I'm like, I could, I could do anything. It's kind of a weird situation. I work better with limitations and
I
things
do.
than yeah. So
I love limitations when you're recording personally. Again, this little Yamaha thing I work on. It's only it's about that big. That's it.
yeah.
And bouncing, because I always remember reading the Beatles Monthly every month, and it was all they used to talk about the bouncing of the tracks. To get because they worked on 4-track, as you know, initially. But mine only bounces. I've got 8 channels, and so you can fill those 8 channels, and then you have to bounce them to the first stereo channel to give you the 8 back, or 7, because I always keep the piano separate. And I always do the vocals kind of at the end, really. The backing vocals I do during all that. And that, a mastering engineer I worked with years ago said, doesn't it drive you crazy that once you've bounced it, and then you've got, then those tracks are free again, those channels, then you start doing new stuff. If it doesn't work, if that bounce doesn't work, then what can you do?
Yeah.
But I love that because that's to me is exciting because you actually kind of don't know how it's going to turn out in the full kind of mix, and I can do this like 8 times. So You know,
Definitely.
I can record loads of vocals, harmonies, bounce them, and then do more harmonies and bounce them on stereo track too. And I just love the whole process because, as I say, it's the most physical I can be without a reel-to-reel tape, if you like. You know,
Yeah.
and I think limitations kind of are good, because I remember years ago when suddenly everybody was talking about 64 track studios and 120 track studios, and I used to think, wow, you know, you kind of don't have to do anything, you know, because it's all kind of there in this huge desk, and it's all done for you. There's a lovely clip on the Traveling Wilburys DVD, which came with the first album or second album, and they're talking about this, and they're just, whenever anything doesn't go quite right, they said, "Don't worry, we'll fix it in the mix," you know, because of this huge studio. Um, I suppose that's also, you know, fun too, not knowing how it's going to mix in mistakes, and I like mistake. I love happy accidents, you know, because I think
Yeah.
sometimes
Exactly. Yeah.
something sort of jumps in, and I'm not sure you can do that digitally using samples and using stuff, as you say, AI stuff that's sort of given to you. Sometimes a happy accident can happen on the piano and the guitar or the drums or something, and you think, wow, I wasn't expecting that, but that works. That's fantastic, you know. And I think you can only kind of do that, for me anyway, in real time. That's the way. But it's my old brain, you know. It's what I'm used to.
I mean, I agree though. I mean, I would call them like human accidents, right? Like, which, you could program it, I suppose, but it's not gonna be the same. But that's where, I think a few people get me wrong, when I show them some of the AI things, because it's not like I'm trying. Like, for me, it's like it's creating music I would never have the patience to create. Like, I enjoy
Okay.
listening to it, but it's very clean and you know modern and stuff. And what's interesting is just the production and stuff. But this is like miles away from what I am into, or grew up, or I wouldn't even know how to do it. So I find it very interesting. But
Oh, it is interesting. Yeah, it's
it's
an
just
art in
it's different.
itself.
Yeah, it's
It's an art in
different. It is.
itself.
It is, and I mean, it is here. It's the
It
as excited I
exists.
was getting a Billboard thing with the label last year. I mean, then you also got the next week. It was like the number one's an AI artist or something. You're like, oh wow, okay, we're
Wow.
already there. We're already there. But it makes sense. I mean, in a way, it does give a voice to some people who have the ideas but don't have the looks
That's
or
true.
anything, right?
That's true.
So it's interesting. It's just different. That's the thing. Everything is so different. Um, and it's fun though. I juggle both worlds. The label sometimes really just feels. I've definitely contemplating like, okay, that's it. I'm done scrapping everything. Um, Mostly because the problems are like just logistics and things in the back end, and it's just like it's. I'm like, man, I'm dealing with spreadsheets and things. It just feels like that's really old school,
Yeah,
and that's not too much fun. And honestly, it is. It's a very old system, um, that I don't know. I think it's just gonna eventually run out of steam, but we'll see what happens as far as modernizing certain aspects of what a label does. And but anyway, I mean, we're going off on a side tangent there. But I do want to, thank you again for being the first guest on Off TLAK
pleasure.
Record here, and
Yes,
it was
pleasure.
also good to chat with you. And I definitely, hopefully, my goal with this is, every couple weeks, bi-weekly, have a stream. So if this keeps going, we'll definitely invite you back. Um, I would recommend this book, starting with this book, and then check out the other two. And then there's also a fiction book, I believe you put out. How did
Yeah,
that
it's a
go?
time travel. Yeah, Cross My Dreams with Nets of Wonder, which is a
Uh-huh.
quote from Bob Lynn's Elusive Butterfly. It's a quote from that song, one of my favourite records of the 60s. Um, yes, it's a time travel novel, but it's what I tried to do, without going into too much detail now, what I tried to do was create a very human situation rather than being all sort of sci-fi, fantasy, all the rest of it. which doesn't really do a lot for me. I wanted to keep a very human element and aspect to it, but just accept the fact that some of these people can travel through time rather than being something incredible. It was just like something that happened, and it got, again, really nice reviews. So I'm working on a second one at the moment. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, it's I love writing. I just love writing. You know, I love words. I love writing words. I love writing prose. I love writing songs. I love the way you can suggest so much in a line. You know, I mean, that's one of the fun things. Well, you're a songwriter. You know that. You know,
Yeah,
it's
but
something.
my goals in words are very different. I'm more of a Paul McCartney songwriter. I mean, you know,
Okay, I know what you mean.
yeah, like I
He
like
he gets
putting
a
words like,
phrase he
for
likes.
Brian Eno, putting words that you never heard together before. That was always something I always wanted to try to figure out.
Try, yeah.
And that's just because I think it's probably patience, because I think it does take a lot of patience. I don't know how long it takes you to do a lyric draft. I mean, do you go through drafts, or does it just kind of?
Well, it's pretty lo-fi the way I work on lyrics. I get lines coming into my head all day. You know, they just
Yeah.
appear. And this is a little McCartney in a way. A line will come into my head, which I love the sound of and the feel of it, and I just write it on literally a scrap of paper, and I have a book, and I just put all these scraps of paper in the book. And at some point, when I'm feeling like I want to go back into the studio, because I sometimes I'm months not doing anything like that. You know, it's all just ideas. Then I'll put these all in front of me, work them all out, and then start typing a lyric out using different lines and how they work. Take that into the studio, put it on the piano, and then that gets moved around. You know, a verse becomes a chorus becomes a verse, middle eight. But it always begins with these random, lovely lines, if you like, that come to me like some sort of muse, you know, telling me, here it is, here's another one today, you know, and so, and just scribble it down.
That's not unlike I think how the Rolling Stones did "XL on Main Street."
Okay.
They just, of course, minus the actual lyric. What was the word he used? Well, the point being, you know, those stupid, you know, they just put a bunch of stupid lyrics, and that's how they would come up with their stupid lyric of the songs, you know. But,
Okay.
so not as elegant as you would do it, right?
Well,
it is a way to do it. It is a way to do it.
It is. It works for me. I know, you know, you said about McCartney. McCartney just puts lines together that make no sense at all.
Yeah.
But they sound great when he sings them. They sound, you know, what's the Jet?
Yeah.
We never knew the Major was a suffragette. I mean, you know, it doesn't mean anything, but it sounds fantastic. David Bowie used to use cutouts. He used to actually stick lines together, and it didn't matter whether it made any sense, but that's how he used to do his lyric writing. You can hear it in things like Sound and Vision, you know, where you this juxtaposition of lines that, again, make no sense, but just sound fantastic, you know. I think I like to probably, because I'm a bit of a control freak, I like it to end up as perfect as I can get it, rather than just be random, you know. Everybody works differently, you know.
Yeah, but yeah, no, that's good to hear how you approach this. And I mean, do you have a count of how many songs you've written? I mean, it's got to be quite a few.
A few hundred, yeah.
Quite a few released, but I'm sure there's unreleased songs, unfinished songs. So.
All over the place. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Piles and piles of piles. And I sometimes do go back to them, you know. I saw your interview with Peter Daltrey, and he said he sometimes did that. He sort of found an old song or an old lyric. Well, I sometimes do that. I may not keep it as it was originally written, but sometimes maybe just one verse will just take me off on a different story, because, you know, I think most of my songs probably are stories of some sort or another. with characters, which is probably how I got into writing books and the novel, creating characters that do things, often of their own accord, you know. And I'm writing away and I think, oh, wow, yes, okay, well, all right, go there, that's great, you know. You carry on. And so sometimes it writes itself, you know.
Well, you definitely have the passion and the patience, I would say, for it. So, and again, so we have a new record we're hoping to plan. So we'll chat, I think, for that one, and then I want to hear more about. I think the audience would love to hear more about like the recording process, honestly, on this new one. If there's any
Okay.
tracks that have, I got to go back now and listen to that one track you said on. Can you hear me now? Okay. That you did the backward piano with Eddie Puma.
Oh,
I
yeah,
gotta
with Eddie, yeah.
didn't catch it. Yeah. And then speaking of, yeah, check that out. So that's on Bandcamp, and I think we do have it also on the thinklikeakey.com
Yeah.
as a download. I'm trying to do more digital releases just to kind of put more
Stuff out
content
there.
out. Yeah. And there's a few ones next week. We have this one I have here. It's a Tim Goulding's solo album. He was a Dr. Strangely Strange, and he put this out in, I think, 2000, 2001. So we're just going to kind of put it back out there. It's actually very cool.
Okay.
I hadn't heard it before, so I was very into it. And so we'll for those who are following the label, we'll keep an eye out for some exclusive digital releases as we're marketing them. And then I do hope maybe we can do some physical of these remasters though for your albums.
That'd be good.
I think people. I've seen some people chiming in there about that. Speaking of chiming in, I do have the question and answers if anyone's on the chat wants to say anything, but I don't think anything has come through. Part of the challenge with this idea here, what we're doing, this like sort of podcast chat live. I like the idea of doing it live. I think that. Well, it saves me from some post-production. So, all the, like we talk about happy accidents and mistakes. Well, we're going to leave them in.
Sure.
But what was I going to say? See, and then I lose my train of thought. Ooh, okay.
Well, yeah. I think, putting together the digital side and maybe putting those out on CD would be great. But yeah, I think this works really well. Your chat with Peter was quite sort of laid back and real. I think, I think it worked. I think that worked really well too. So yeah, I think these things are great.
Yeah. Now this that was just kind of like we focused on that album, but hopefully I'd like to keep producing this in a way where it's we may not have anything to promote, but we're just talking, But
Yeah.
I think that'll be tough in your case. I think you always have something going on. So, but yeah, so thanks a lot for joining. Thanks for everyone who's tuning in. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot of people tuning in the next few days, which is also part of the cool part of doing
Process.
something like this.
Yeah.
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 And we'll probably do some clips and things like that. And but yeah, it was some good chatting with you in real time, John. And
absolutely, it's been great. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no, thanks for doing it. And we'll be back. Hopefully in 2 weeks I'll do another one. And John, we'll have you back. When we have the new record announcement. So that should be soon. So everyone stay tuned for that. But for now, there's plenty of music to check out. Follow on Spotify. We talked about Discogs. On Discogs you can put your collection in there. So if you do own any of John's records, make sure you have. Hey, I own this. It's a different way of helping the algorithm in a way.
Yeah, that's true.
It looks good to have. Hey, look, this is a record people have, and we know. I can give you kind of a off TLAK record amount of. I think it's a very small percentage that from the sales to how many people market on Discogs. It's a small percentage that that do it. But now I can kind of like, I'll look at a release, and if I see X amount, I'll be like, oh, they probably sold X amount. So it's kind of
Yeah,
an
yeah.
interesting statistic. It's totally not based on hard numbers, but I think it might be a good ballpark figure. So, but again, I
Yeah, that's
encourage
a good
everyone
idea.
to do stuff like that. It helps out the label, the artists, the efforts we're doing here. And yeah, so John, any, I know it's late over there. That's what I was going to say. The challenge with Off TLAK Record, doing it live like this, which again, I think is part of going to be the appeal, especially when people realize they can ask questions live, and we'll answer them untruthfully. But it's that the time, we're all over the world. I'm here in Texas, you're in Spain right now, so we got quite a bit of time difference. So it's late night there. We're getting into the afternoon here, and well, we are in the afternoon here. But yeah, so that's going to be the biggest challenge, because ideally we would start the show always at the sort of same time, same channel type of thing. But it might not be that way, but it might not always be on a Sunday either. But hopefully every other week we'll have a live chat like this. And yeah, so this is our first official Off TLAK Record live, and we've been talking to John Howard. Thank you again for the time and chatting and just being part of the label, really.
They're great. Well, I'm thrilled to be part of the label, so that's goes without saying. It's just great, and I've really enjoyed this, and it's lovely to be the first one, so that's rather nice too.
Another thing for the old resume.
Absolutely, yeah. If I ever do another book, who knows?
All right, John. Well,
You take care now.
we'll talk soon. All right. Well, we'll definitely,
Yeah,
we got some business we'll be talking this week, so we'll be
yeah.
in touch. So
Okay.
thank
Great
you.
to see you.
Bye.
Thanks, Roger. You take
Good
care
evening.
now.
You too. All right, guys. I'm gonna go off this question and answer, because I don't want to be the one answering questions for John there. But I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode here, Off TLAK Record Live. John mentioned Peter's interview, which was a couple weeks ago, and I guess that kind of started it, but it was not officially branded, so to speak. But we're gonna, hopefully we'll get some better production on my end in the future episodes, and I'll get my know-how here in this live studio. But the live thing is key. It's not going to be it's not going to be able to happen very consistently, unfortunately. But as far as like consistency in the sense of what day and time we go on. But oh yeah, we have a QR code. Oh yeah, so shop the catalog. There you go. This is what I wanted to do. All right, guys. So again, we went over some John's releases for those that wandered by, which we also have on vinyl. We have a few copies left. Try Amazon, if not Discogs. And then we have check Jim's new album out, Jim Camacho. He's a buddy there from Miami. And then the new releases, one last time. This one I recommend if you like just weird music. Pato, which if you don't know, have that album. That's the one to get. And of course, Michael the Albuquerque's Talking Sleeper. Sorry for the technical difficulties in the beginning. I really spoke very highly of all this stuff, and I couldn't do it the second time around. But yeah, all right. I think we'll end it there. I need to get a catchphrase to sign off, but I don't have one yet. So if you like, boy, what is it? The show's over. Yeah, well, the show is over. Like and subscribe and hype button. I don't know if you can hype it. And thanks for everyone who's tuning in live and who will be tuning in and watching it later. And let's see if this cancels the show. Okay.